What's cracking, everybody? This is the Overtime Sports Show, episode 13, coming to you live on this fine Tuesday evening. Hope you're all doing well out there. My name is Greg Gross. My co host is the one, the only DOB, coming to you for the next hour and a half or so, talking everything sports. Dan, how we doing, my friend?
I'm doing very, very well. Again, like we said last week, 13 weeks. I can't believe we're at it. It's quite an accomplishment. We started 13 weeks ago. Didn't even know where it's going to take us, and we got some cool stuff going on probably tonight, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But as everybody's waiting for, the grand arrival of the hat. I know everybody likes it, so you're going to like this one. It's a little New York Giants hat for you. A little bit of foreshadowing for hopefully a future guest that we're going to have on today. But figured I'd show you some love. I'm a Giants fan myself, and show maybe our guests some love too. So,
I like
buddy.
that. I like that. I feel like you're a week late. I mean, the timing, we know there's some foreshadowing coming. We'll get to that announcement in just a minute, but you sure could have used that hat last week. I mean,
Well, I know, but we were talking about Yankees baseball last week. Yankees baseball was last week, so that's what happens.
All right. I do like the hat. I like it a lot. So as Dan mentioned, for those of you that have been watching us for a while, last week we alluded to a special guest who may or may not be joining us today. Former NFL cornerback Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is set to hopefully join us today, schedule permitting. He may be making a guest appearance with us. We'd certainly love to have him and pick his brain on the stellar career that he had. So hopefully we'll get that opportunity today. If not, we'll try to pin him down another time. But full slate of sports to get to, wild weekend in the NFL, bunch of other topics. So I think we need to just kind of dive right in. Dan, you know me, I like to start with a recap of MNF, the game that happened on Monday, as we usually do. And for me, I got some thoughts yesterday. To be honest, I'm kind of puzzled. We know if we look at my locks from last week, we do locks and upsets. I had the Eagles as my lock. I had them -4. I didn't think there was a way that they were going to go down now 3 in a row. They've lost. And, I don't really know what to make of them. I really don't. From the early stages of the season where it looked like they were almost head and shoulders above everybody except maybe San Fran. It just looked like the Eagles were kind of in a class of their own. We know they had that one clunker against the Jets. I still don't know how that happened, but maybe we do know how that happened because it seems like there's just something not quite right in Philly. And it's certainly not the time to be having this happen. We talk a lot about teams that make these deep runs in the playoffs. A lot of it stems from peaking at the right time. Things come together late in the season. You go on this hot run and it can take you a long way. The Eagles seem like they're trending in the opposite direction. And I just don't know why. When I look at their roster, top to bottom, there's a whole bunch of talent there. Guys like Hurts have been in the league a couple years now. So, the young rookie stuff, those aren't valid excuses anymore, in my opinion. So I'm pretty surprised. But, that's what makes the NFL so special. You don't know what's going to happen week to week. But things are not right in Philly. We all know how their fans can act, and I'm just surprised that their fan base is not imploding more on social media, given what's been going on the last couple of weeks. But I'm sure you got some thoughts. I don't know. Can you make sense of it? What's going on there? Because I certainly can't.
No, not at all. And I don't know if you remember correctly, but earlier in the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Jalen Hurts, he had a deep flu. So he was hurt. He was sick, and he flew by himself with the team Monday night. So I don't know if that took a factor in the play. But also, I don't know if you saw, they had a new defensive coordinator, old Matt Patricia from the Patriots. He's running the defense now. So maybe they wanted to try to switch some things up. I mean, they only let up 20 points last night. They had a game-winning touchdown at the end with Smith and Digwa, which is a rookie running wide receiver from Ohio State, up and coming. He was I want to say a top 10 pick, but I think there's a lot of factors that are going into it. One main factor, I believe, is I think that they're tired. I mean, look at what they did last year. They had a really good team last year. They had that long playoff run. went to the Super Bowl and lost. You lose the Super Bowl, that's a huge emotional loss, a huge emotional, on the whole team. So a lot of football, just a lot of stuff that's are factoring in. And they were playing really good last year and this year. I think they started both years 10-1. So you kind of get pretty happy. And this year they're 10-1. They think they're the cream of the crop. And then the 49ers come in and whop them, and they get whopped by the Cowboys and lost last night in Seattle. I mean, it was bad weather, but they're used to bad weather in Philadelphia. So it's just very surprising. But I think one of the main factors, like I said, is just the emotional toll and just tiredness from last year and this year so far. I mean, that's kind of what I see. I mean, because Hurts is still Hurts, but I think he wasn't 100% last night, and I think you could see that. And he said it in his after conference press conference that maybe guys weren't trying hard or they weren't all there. So that's kind of what I see from it.
Yeah, that's the part that I don't get is not trying hard, or even like you mentioned, the weather. Those can all be factors, but you know the weather kind of going into the game, what it's going to be like. The atmosphere. That Seattle is a fringe playoff team right now, so they're going to give it everything they got. So if you're Philly, I think you have to be prepared for all those circumstances. You have to know that going in. So guys that are not trying or not ready, that's inexcusable. It's an indictment of the players for sure and their effort, but I think it's also an indictment of the coaching staff not being able to have your team mentally ready and prepared for what's ahead of you. And Philly's not careful. I mean, they're already found themselves out of that first round bye spot, and that could mean something. If they're not careful, they could find them, out of a home game as well. We all thought that it was looking like the road to the Super Bowl might go through Philly at one point. Now they might not even get a home game at all. So if they're not careful, things can go south real quick.
Yeah, and I mean, like you were saying, going off the coaches, I mean, that they got to get them ready. I mean, they could have been lackadaisical too, because before the game even started, they wrapped up a playoff spot, so they knew they were going to make the playoffs. Nick Sirianni, he's the first coach in Eagles history to make the playoffs his first 3 years, so that's kind of an interesting stat. But maybe they just were playing lackadaisical. They knew they had a playoff spot. They were traveling on Monday Night Football. Their quarterback wasn't 100%, and I think they just took him for granted, because don't forget, the quarterback for the Seahawks was Drew Luck. It wasn't even Geno Smith. So, they could have just taken this whole team, this whole game for granted, thinking they're just going to go in there and, come off the 2-game losing streak. They already got the playoffs.
The indictment of the coaching staff. I mean,
exactly.
You can't take anybody for granted. It's a professional football league. You got to be ready every single game. So,
yeah, exactly. So, we'll see what happens the rest of the year. I mean, they control their own destiny, because as you know, and we know, the rest of their schedule, they play the Giants twice and the Cardinals. So if they win out, they can still win the division and get second seed. I don't think they're going to catch the Niners, because the Niners will touch them here in a little bit when we touch their game. But the Niners are just above everybody else, I think. They are. Yeah, they just really play. They're playing really good.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said earlier, they're the team that actually is getting hot at the right time. They started great, dealt with some injuries, a couple weird losses here in the middle, but I think they're 5 in a row, 6 in a row. They're clicking. They're on all cylinders right now, firing, and they look like
6 straight win.
Yeah, they look like the team that honestly I thought we were going to see out of Philly, a team that just goes into the playoffs on a heater and really never looks back. So tale of two cities there, I think.
I think so too.
I want to stay in the NFC East for a minute, because to me, this is just another puzzling storyline as of late. You have the Cowboys, who we've seen what they can do to opponents. You look at their stats, they're top 3 in almost every offensive category: yards per game, touchdown per game. Dak and CeeDee Lamb look at times untouchable. Basically, they've absolutely torched defenses around the league, but it's sort of becoming clear that they really only do that when they're at home. It's been a while since I've seen a team just as distinct as Dallas when it comes to home field versus how they play on the road. I mean, they weren't even competitive against the Bills this past weekend for most of the game. I know it ended 31-10, which is not on paper one of the worst blowouts we've seen, but the game was 31-3, I think, for a good portion of it. And you're not even competitive at that point. Credit to the Bills, they got it done. I mean, Josh Allen had very few yards. I think he had one rushing touchdown, one passing touchdown. I know they did it on the ground with Latavius Murray at times. I think James Cook. So it was a pretty balanced attack, which I think is
Yep.
exactly what the Bills needed. We've talked about them being another puzzling storyline. I feel like there's so many of them this year. But it was good for the Bills. I think that was a game they really, really needed. At home, rejuvenate their fans, get a little confidence. But on the flip side, Dallas, I mean, just absolutely hot and cold, black and white when it comes to home field and on the road. And they got to fix that because, as we just talked about, NFC, you're probably going to be going through San Fran. So they
Yep.
can't be playing two completely different brands of football if they have hopes and aspirations of making it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a tale of two teams. I mean, you hit it right on the spot. I mean, look at their home stats are astronomically different than their road stats, and that goes off of what the Bills are doing. We've talked about the Bills, all episodes long. We were talking about how people figured out how to play Josh Allen, and people figured out how to give him pressure, and he's kind of been folding into the pressure. But what comes back to me is they fired Ken Dorsey, who was their offensive coordinator, and brought in Joe Brady. And 3 games, you can see their offense in 3 games. It's unbelievable. It's crazy that the stats that Josh Allen has had and the stats that their running game has had in 3 games with Joe Brady looks like they're a team to be messed with. They're playing really good ball, and sometimes a shakeup does that. We've seen in years past if they, a defensive coordinator gets fired or an offensive coordinator gets fired, it kind of lights a fire under the whole team because they think that nobody's job is safe, which end of the day, nobody's job is safe. I mean, they can easily, the head coach could get fired or they could easily change a quarterback or change a running back. So it's very, very interesting to see how the Bills have responded to that. And it's, I think they're playing really well. I mean, they don't really control their own destiny, but as long as they just win out, they have a good chance to get one of those wild cards because the AFC is jumbled at a bunch of 7-7 teams and a bunch of 8-6 teams. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think that they found their quote unquote mojo. I think they found it again. The Bills did, and they're a really good team. They're playing well, and we've seen it for the last 3 years. They're finally playing to their potential.
Yeah, they are. They're a team that, as long as they get in, I think they could easily make some noise just because
Exactly.
of who they have on paper. They're a team that's tough to play at home. Bills Mafia is as tough as an environment, especially you've got the weather to be considered this time of year. You never know if you're going to face some harsh environments. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. For the Bills, it's just getting in, and for a week or two, it looked like they were gonna really miss out, but I guess they're finding a way, and it was a big victory for them. I want to switch for a second to the AFC East, and I can't believe we're even going to spend some time on this game, but it's worth it to me for a moment just to acknowledge the score for what it was. Of course, the Dolphins just blanking the Jets. That was another one that wasn't competitive at all. I really only want to mention it because I just saw on the scrolling ticker on the TV here that Rodgers finally, quote unquote, announced that he's not coming back this year. It was announced, I guess, earlier in the week that he was finally potentially eligible to return to the practice squad or the 53-man roster, something like that. And now it looks like they're retracting that. It's not going to happen. And I want to ask you, because part of me thinks that this guy was just stringing us and the fans along all season long. I mean, I think there's part of me that thinks he wanted to stay relevant given how he went down so early, and it was disastrous. It was horrible for us. We're not Jets fans. I don't want to speak for you, but I was looking forward to seeing him play, seeing what he could do, because we know how strong their defense is. If they could complement the offensive side of the ball with him under center, I think they really did have a legitimate shot at playoffs. Whether or not they make a deep run, I'm still not convinced that they'd be able to compete with the Ravens, the Chiefs, those types of teams. But I definitely think they were going to be in the mix. And without him, it's a different story. But I do think that he was just stringing people along. He got the raw end of the deal. It was a hard way to go down, but I don't think we should have spent the last 2 to 3 months just entertaining this crazy notion that he would possibly come back. It was too risky, and I think there was a Favre-esque element there of him being a diva, wanting this attention and drama, when in the back of his mind, he knew that there was no shot he was coming back. I fully expect him to come back next year. I really do. Nobody wants to go out that way, but I wish this would have happened a month or two ago, so we didn't even have to cover it. It just feels to me like he was just grabbing for attention.
Yeah, it's just Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we've seen him over the last 4 or 5 years with his, drama in the Packers world, saying that he wanted hand in, transactions for the team. He wanted draft input. He wanted roster input. So I think that, one, he was trying just to, he's a stubborn old man. One, he was trying to, string people wrong, and he wanted to prove the world wrong, with coming back from, 7-8 months on Achilles tendon, which usually you're out a full year. So I truly believe if the Jets are, instead of 5-9, maybe they're 8-6. I think he's playing because I think Aaron Rodgers, one, I think he wants to prove people wrong. Two, he's very stubborn, and three, he likes the attention. So, if they're in the playoff hunt, he's definitely playing this week. Funny you say that tomorrow is the quote unquote deadline for him to come off the 21-day injured list, whatever they called it. So they Boomer and Gio this morning were saying maybe they activate him but put him on the sidelines. But from what he said on the Pat McAfee show, it looks like he's not even ready 3 to 4 weeks out, and he wants to play like a couple more years. He doesn't want next year to be his last year, which,
Yeah.
I mean, he's in immaculate shape. I mean, he does some weird things, but a lot of the weird things are helping him. So I think he could play a couple more years, and he
Yeah.
has the roster that he wants. He has, Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator. He's got, Saleh as the coach, which you know my thoughts on Saleh. And, I think they could have really been a really good team this year because I watched a lot of that Hard Knocks, and their defense is a top 5 defense, and their offense, could have been a top 5, top 10 defense. So they could be easily, if he's playing, they could have been 9-5 right now, not 5-9, or, maybe 10-4, depending on if he was playing the whole year and how the offense have clicked. So it's good, but I'm glad that they shut it down today because it was getting very annoying, hearing, oh, Rodgers may come back. So
That's where I'm at. And, there's no doubt that he's a gamer. He's competitive. I'm just surprised. Well, not surprised, but I personally don't think if they were 9-5 that he's still coming back. If he's 3 or 4 weeks away right now, to me, it's just still too early. It's too it's too risky. And not only that though. I mean, honestly, what did he really expect? Did he think they were going to be 9-5? Just he makes their team, at least from an offensive perspective, very, very different. So I'm not saying it was obvious, but I think when he went down, people kind of had in the back of their mind what the Jets were going to be this season. And I would say their record is kind of what we thought it would be. I mean, he makes them that much different on offense. So I just don't think he was coming back. But you're right. I'm glad we can put it to bed, move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they would put him on the sidelines though on the 53-man roster, because wouldn't that take up an available player slot? Right?
Yeah, it would. So they probably won't activate him tomorrow. I mean, we'll find out tomorrow, but they probably won't activate him. So we'll, that story will go to bed, and then they'll just have to do what they did this year and talk about next year, and not hopefully, but I mean, I like watching him play. Hopefully, he's back to 100% and see what he can do.
Yeah. So, stay on the New York topic for a minute. I do want to acknowledge the Giants, especially since you got your hat here. I've been asked by friends, family, colleagues, and whatnot about how I feel about the Giants. And while I'm happy they made things interesting down the stretch, the Tommy DeVito story was certainly fun and entertaining for a while. I wasn't getting my hopes up. I've been on record saying I didn't expect the Giants to all of a sudden become playoff contenders, or that DeVito was the long-term answer at quarterback. I am upset that they got me back into the swing of things. I had put the nail in the coffin on the Giants season a few weeks back and was fully ready to support the Devils and move on to hockey season and basketball and things like that. And they sucked me back in. I was really hoping for a W. I think they could have won this weekend. It just was a pretty bad, lackluster game all around. It had all the makings of a good story and run for the Giants if they would have just won this past week against a team that they needed to beat, who they were competing with for a wild card berth, and then it sets up in Philly on Christmas Day. And I guess I should be happy now that the Giants don't have to ruin my Christmas against their arch rivals, because it no longer matters. But I am upset that they made it matter for another week or two and teased me a bit, because I had closed the door on Giants football, and they kept me back in it. But more than anything, now I don't think the last couple of weeks, as good of a story as it was, I don't think it gave us much information and many answers. You know, we didn't get to see Jones. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to be part of the future, but I don't even know what to make of DeVito now. Again, I'm not saying he's the long-term answer, but does he stay the backup? Or if the Giants draft a quarterback this year, they're not getting rid of Jones right away. So DeVito goes away. Does Jones stay the backup? Does Jones get the keys again? I still don't know. And that's not a good position to be in at this point in the season, because you're not making the playoffs. You should start to know what your team is going to look like next year. And I still don't think there's many answers at the quarterback position, which is not a good feeling being a Giants fan.
Yeah, definitely not a good feeling. I mean, he has that big contract that he signed, so I think he's at least one more year, because he's guaranteed. I want to say there was a lot of guaranteed money up front. So I think if he leaves next year, there'll be a dead cap hit of probably 20 to 30 million, which, a dead cap is, no one on the roster, but it still hits against the salary cap. But the big question that I think is what's going to happen with Saquon Barkley. He complained about the franchise tag last year. He got on a NFL running back meeting with all the running backs and said how we deserve more money, this and that. And then they signed a 1-year deal. And when he was injured 2 or 3 games this year, so who knows if he's coming back. I mean, he wants to get paid like an elite running back, but he can't stay on the field. I mean, if you look at his years since he's been in the league, I want to say he's probably missed close to 50% of the games, if not more. So, the real question is he coming back, and what are you going to do about the line? The young line that gives up too many sacks. I mean, you can't, if you get a rookie running or quarterback, what are you going to throw him against behind the line and have him get killed, look like Bryce Young in the Panthers? So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting what the future holds. I mean, the coaching staff is the correct coaching staff. I think Brian Daboll knows what he's doing. We saw that last year. We saw that the last couple of weeks. He's a very good coach. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get the best out of his players. But going forward, there's a lot of big decisions. I mean, do you just cut it and start over and either go with DeVito and maybe use your top draft pick and either trade it for more draft picks or get a solid offensive lineman or a solid skilled player. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, to me, it kind of feels like it's still last year. I feel like those answers still haven't, those questions still haven't been answered. The quarterback position, the running back position, two key positions. You kind of want that shored up when you head into the draft. And, when it comes to Saquon, I still stand by what I always say is that I just don't know that you can pay the guy the kind of money that and clearly, like you said, he's not alone. There's other running backs around the league. We saw it this past offseason. They all want to get paid. They play a tough position. There's no doubt. Saquon makes the Giants better. There's no doubt about that either. But I don't know that you can commit the kind of money that he and the other running backs want, because to your point, the guy just can't stay on the field. He's hurt more than he's healthy. And, think about you and I. We have day jobs, and I may be the absolute best at what I do, but if I'm sick all the time and I can't come to work, why do I deserve to get paid a ton of money when I'm not working? I'm not performing. I think it's the same thing. These guys play a sport. It's violent. He happens to play a position that, frankly, is a little bit expendable. I hate using that word, but I think it is the reality. We've seen that guys can get pulled off the bench and perform almost as well as these star running backs do. So I think it's a changing landscape and a changing league. The quarterbacks are the ones that are getting all the money. Obviously, you're still going to pay, like you said, the skill players, offensive tackles to protect them. But I just don't know. As much as I like Saquon, he rubbed me the wrong way with some of his comments this past offseason. I do love the guy for what he's done while he's been on the field, but he's just not been on the field too often. So I personally, if it comes down to a contractual dispute, I would just let the guy walk. Wish him the best. Hope
Yep.
you do well. Anytime you play teams that aren't the Giants, wish you well elsewhere, and then we just move on. I don't think Matt Breida is the answer, obviously, but somebody else I think would be capable of filling in if they have let Saquon walk.
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse, I mean, you've seen his workouts. He's a freak of nature in the gym. So it's not that he's physically fit. It's just, some of these injuries. I mean, some of them are freak injuries, yes, but it's wondering, why does he keep finding himself in that situation? So it's
Yeah.
very interesting. Nobody knows why injuries come, but like I said, he's a freak in the gym. You see his quads, you see his squats. So
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely physically fit. It's just very interesting why he keeps getting injured. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting what happens this offseason.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely bad luck. I think the guy puts in the time, like you said, to his own physical fitness and he truly cares. I'm sure he wants to be out there. It's just a string of bad luck, I guess, which is unfortunate. But
Yep.
yeah, that's life. That's business. It's not necessarily the Giants, the team's fault. So
Life in the big
definitely
city, as they would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
one game I wanted to touch on. We'll get to our locks at the end of the show and our
Yep.
upsets like we always do. But just one score that stands out to me. I caught a good portion of this game with a friend of mine who's a Colts fan. The Steelers took an L. That was I
Yeah.
think that was your upset, predicting them to
Unfortunately.
get the win. Yeah, and you had them 2.5, 3 points or so, and they lost by looks like 17. It was a game that the Steelers really needed to
Really
have.
needed. Yeah.
Yeah, outside of what we talk about a lot, which is Tomlin's unbelievable winning streak as a head coach, having never had a losing season. The Steelers as a team just needed that game to stay in the playoff hunt because we talked about it and you mentioned it earlier. There's a lot of teams now that are at that 7-7, 8-6 mark. I mean, look at the AFC South. I think I mentioned it a few weeks back. It looked like for a while that there were 3 or 4 teams that could come from the AFC North, and that still could happen. But now it's the AFC South that's got 3 teams deadlocked at 8-6. I mean, the Jags suffered an L, and both Houston and Indy get wins. So now there's just an absolute logjam, and that was a game that Pittsburgh needed to win, and it's not a surprise to me. I know you took them as the upset, probably for a lot of those reasons they needed to win, but I just look at their roster and they look like they got a lot of problems. Not saying it's all on Tomlin's shoulders, but that's a team that clearly has quarterback issues of their own. I feel bad for guys like Watt on the defensive side of the ball because they're out there making plays. It seems like every single game he gets at least a sack or two. So they're trying. They're a lot like the Jets, if you ask me, a team that has a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball, but just offensively absolutely inept, just a black hole.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've talked about the Steelers throughout the episodes, and Kenny Pickett. We're trying to see if he's the answer. I mean, he was a first-round draft pick. He, when CJ Stroud was going on his tear, there was stats that I saw that CJ Stroud had 7 touchdowns in 3 games, and Kenny Pickett hasn't had 7 touchdowns in his whole career. So it was some crazy stat like that. So a lot of the Steelers are thinking, is this guy the answer? What are they going to do with him? And I heard this week they're starting Mason Rudolph. I don't know if you remember that name from the past, but he's the one who got hit in the head, almost got hit in the head by Myles Garrett, 3-4 years ago. So they're not starting Trubisky. They're going to go to Mason Rudolph. So do they really want to, are they just going to give up on the season? Do they want to do this winning record for Tomlin, which, is a pretty impressive stat as we've touched on a couple times, but we'll see what just happens with that. I mean, I like I said, I took them because, last week I said with Tomlin's win record, he really wants to keep that streak going. But yeah, it's just very interesting. And another game I wanted to touch on real quick is you finally got your wish, and you've been talking crap about the Chargers all year long, 63-21, and they fired your boy Staley and they fired the GM. So I'm sure that
Yeah.
you were happy about that because I know you've been talking trash about him and that season. I mean that roster, and it's kind of when I was watching that game, I was like, I know Greg's loving this because it was it was what was it 49-0 at half or something like that, something crazy.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very crazy how that's happening.
Yeah. I've been calling for it for a while. I've been on record as not a Staley believer. And you're right. I mean, that was an ugly, ugly game. 49-0, I
Yeah.
think, like you said, and
Yep.
63 points. This is 2 games this year, just absolute wild offensively. 63 for the Raiders, and what was it? The Dolphins who put up
70 points. Yeah.
against Denver early
Not to
on in the
mention
year.
they got 3-0. They lost to the Vikings 4 days before this. So put up 63 points 4 days after losing 3-0. I mean, that's wild.
Go make sense of that. I dare you. It's
It
just
doesn't make any sense. It's the
no.
NFL season that we're living in right now. A lot of crazy
Yeah.
stuff is happening. It's
Yeah.
good for our business because we have stuff to talk about. So it's good for us.
Team content, man. Just give us something to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And another game I wanted to touch on was the Lions. I mean, the 42-17, Jared Goff. We talked about him, how when they were on their losing streak, how they lost to the Bears twice. How if he gets pressure, he kind of pressures up, and he doesn't do very well. But 5 touchdown passes and 42-17. They're now on the straight path to the number 2 seed if they win out. So I think they're
yeah.
back. Not that they went anywhere, but I think they're back. I mean, that was a solid win. It was at home. The Broncos have been playing well lately, so that was a solid 42-17 win. I think that everybody is on. The whole Lions are finally running on full cylinders, as they would say in the Detroit city. With the automobiles and everything, all the cylinders are running.
That's
So
right.
I was very impressed with that game. I think they're going to look good. They're a young team, but their coach, I love their coach Dan Campbell. He's got the grit and he's got the tenacity and everything to rock and roll. So I was very impressed with that win.
Yeah, they put a little distance between themselves and the rest of the division. The Packers, of course, lost to
The
the
Bucks.
Bucks. That was a game. The Packers, a lot like the Pittsburgh in the AFC. They needed that win. They were 6-7 coming into it. Now they fall to 6-8, and the Bears we know are out of it, but the Vikings suffer a loss. They were the early game on Saturday, and they lost in overtime to the Bengals. That was a game that the Vikings really needed to have. They're getting Jefferson back. I think this was his second week back. He had a pretty good game, but that was a game that they really needed to stay in the hunt. The Vikings are in a little bit better shape than the Packers. They got a game up on them at 7-7. But we know now that their hopes at the division are gone. So you're right. The Lions have that nicely secured. They look like they're pretty stacked. We talk about Dan Campbell. They look like he's a guy that they play for hard every single week. We talk about fantasy a lot. I've got Sam Laporta traded for him this year, and that guy is he's a force, man. He's something else. I think between him and Amon St. Brown, they could really do some damage in the postseason because
and the 2-headed monster at running back too. Don't forget.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Montgomery
They
and
can
Gibbs.
do it
I
on
mean,
the
those guys
ground.
yeah.
They can do it in the air. Goff has been a little streaky this year, but he's done enough. He's been, I think, at the very least, a game manager. I think he also can be a difference maker. As long as he doesn't screw it up, he's got the weapons offensively to put up points. I think really the question is on the defensive side of the ball, can they keep other opposing teams out of the end zone? That to me will be the problem if the Lions end up playing somebody like Dallas or Philly or San Fran in the NFC on the road to a potential Super Bowl. It's can their defense shut down some of those potent teams? There's no doubt. I think their offense can keep up with them, but it's on the defensive side of the ball. What are they really made of? So be interesting to see how they get tested down the road.
Yeah, that's some of their weakness this year is their defense. Their offense is top notch when it's rolling, but their defense has been suspect. So yeah, to answer that question, yeah, I think it's going to see what happens if they can stop these top notch guys, offensive teams when their defense is not rolling. So Yeah, I
Yep.
think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the playoffs with them because, like I said, this is their first chance. I mean, they haven't seen this in it's probably been at least 10 years. They haven't seen the playoffs. I want to say they've been
Yep.
kind of the bottom dwellers of the NFC.
Yep. I'm looking ahead to next week, trying to see or this coming weekend rather, what some of the matchups are because it's still going to be pretty interesting. I'm looking at the NFC South, and somebody's got to win that division. The Bucks did themselves a favor winning this past weekend, and so did the Saints. They're both sitting at 7-7. And actually, I need to go back because the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken, they lost to the Panthers, and
They
I'm kind
did
of
on a
wondering
last second field goal.
how the hell does that happen? I mean, just you put up 7 points against the team who's got nothing going for them this season, nothing at
Yeah.
all.
Yep.
A division
Crazy.
rival.
Yeah. Division rival. Not to interrupt you, crazy stat on that game. I just wanted to throw it out there. Tickets were going for $4 a pop. I don't know if you saw that for
I
the
did
Carolina
not.
Panthers game. $4 a pop. And 18 minutes before the game, I saw a picture on Instagram yesterday. The high school football in Texas had more attendance than the Carolina Panthers game did for that game. And I mean, it was crappy weather, but still,
Yeah.
NFL football game has less attendance than a high school
Yeah.
football game in Dallas, Texas, at the Cowboys Stadium. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to throw that point on there.
Yeah.
So
No, that's brutal. Jeez.
it's very brutal, very brutal. I mean, 9-7. They won on the last second field goal. The Falcons looks like it's the Buccaneers division to lose. If I had to say, I mean, the Saints, they're an injury away from Carr getting injured, and they're out of it because who knows what Jameis is going to do when Carr goes out. I mean, the Saints have a good offense. They have Kamara, they have Tyson Hill, and they still have some decent receivers. But with no quarterback, what are you going to do? We know how important the quarterback is.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. But I mean, I'm looking at the schedule. It's no cakewalk for the Saints. They play the Rams this week, Thursday night, actually, 2 days from now.
Yep.
And we know that the Rams look like they're starting to get their act together. I think they're healthy. Cooper Kupp's back. He's starting to get in the mix. He could be a dangerous combo with Puka Nacua. But the Bucks have to play the Jags this week, and I think the Jags have also lost 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah, you don't want to get me
that's not
started on the
going to be.
Jaguars.
Well, I know how you feel about them, and that's kind of why I'm curious. They were looking a lot better than what their record says right now, but I still think they're a good team. The Bucks to me are just really, really streaky. I think they've gotten lucky on a couple of their wins. So I don't know. To me, I wouldn't say it's the Bucks. I think it's the Saints division to lose. I know, like you said, they're an injury away from imploding, but you could say that about a lot of teams. I think if I had to pick one, I think the Saints get the division. I think we
Over the
talked about it.
Bucks, really interesting.
I do. I think
Yeah.
I think we talked about it, but I'll be going to the game at Ray J on New Year's Eve. It's a day game.
Oh, nice.
Saints Bucks. So
That could be
that's
for the
probably
division.
that's
Yep.
gonna matter. It's probably gonna have the division on the line. So I'm actually kind of excited to go to that. But if I was a betting man, I think it's the Saints.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I know that, like I said, you don't want to get me started on the Jaguars, but being in Northeast Florida, they were 8-3. Everybody was like, "Oh, let's go Jaguars," and everybody was happy. Everybody was hyped. They had 2 of 3 games, 2 primetime games, one against the Bengals, and then this past Sunday against the Ravens. And they're I love Doug Peterson. He's a really good coach, but I just think that their team is too young, and I don't think Lawrence is ready for the big time. They just find a way to lose. I mean, if you saw that Bengals game, you saw that Browns game, and then you saw the game Sunday night against the Ravens. They find ways to lose, and
Yeah.
that's not gonna fare well in the playoffs. So they, luckily for them, I think C.J. Stroud, I'm reading right here, is going to be out again this week against the Browns. And I mean, Case Keenum played good last week, but he barely beat the Titans, which they're a suspect team. We've talked about them. And the Colts, they have Gardner Minshew. I mean, he's playing well, but I think they might squeeze in there at like a maybe a 10-7 team or a 9-8 and win the division. And then who knows what happens in the playoffs? But it hurts me to say this, but I think it's still their division to lose, the Jaguars.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think from what I'm hearing, Stroud is probably going to be sidelined. It looks like he's not even cleared yet to play or to practice rather. So he's got to get that first, get in a full practice before he can even be designated to return for contact and whatnot. So it's looking like he's probably going to be out. That doesn't make me feel good as a CJ Stroud fantasy owner. I do have a capable backup. Yeah, I know you didn't have the best season, but we talk about it every once in a while. We talk about our teams, our players. I want your opinion for a moment since I am in the playoffs now. I had a first-round bye last week, so happy about that. I want your opinion, and for listeners out there, I want listeners' opinions too. Hit us up on Facebook or Twitter and let me know your thoughts because I want to survey some listeners for some advice here. And Dan, you tell me yours. So I got a little bit of a pickle for the flex spot. I've had Breece Hall in for a while. Our league is a little bit of a PPR league, kind of heavy, obviously, as you know, towards touches. Breece Hall supposedly projected to get 14 points right now. I'm leaning towards sitting him in favor of Cooper Kupp just because of how he's kind of come back with a bit of a force and the fact that I do have Stafford starting. And I'm kind of, I don't know. I like that 1-2 connection. I hope I'm not reading too much into it. I hope I don't make a mistake, but I'm thinking about leaning on Kupp, and I have to make the decision, obviously, before Thursday. If I sit Kupp, then I think I have to go Breece Hall. So those are my thoughts. The other options, I could put Devin Singletary in, but going up against Cleveland's defense, he's had a great little resurgence the back half of this year, but I just can't see myself starting him against Cleveland. So really, my gut is Kupp or Hall, maybe Singletary, and I also do have Najee Harris, but he's too streaky in my opinion. They go with Warren a lot. So you tell me, what would you do, Kupp or Hall?
So here is my thoughts on it. I would probably it's kind of a toss-up. I was thinking more of Breece Hall, and the reason why I'm going to say this is we know Aaron Rodgers isn't playing. We also know that Zach Wilson, he got tattooed last week against the Dolphins, so he hasn't been cleared. So their quarterback is going to be Travis Simeon or Trevor Simeon, whatever the hell his name is. So he's going to be handing the ball off a lot because obviously he's not going to be passing. I mean, they're playing the Commanders, but still, I think they're going to run heavy just because unexperienced quarterback, he doesn't want to force the issue. So it's kind of a toss-up. But then again, Cooper Kupp, I mean, we saw what happened 2 years ago when Cooper Kupp was healthy with Matt Stafford. He ran him to the Super Bowl, and then he was, I want to say, wasn't he Super Bowl MVP against the Bengals in the Super Bowl 2 years ago?
I think he was.
So, and I think he won the Triple Crown that year too, with the most receptions, most touchdowns, and most yards. And the Rams need this game more than the Jets do. So if I was me, I'd probably be leaning, 60-40 Cooper Kupp. But then again, it's a toss-up. I mean, let me see where the game is. I mean, the game's at home, so there's going to be no weather. There's going to be no weather there. I would probably do Cooper Kupp just because he looks like he's healthy. Stafford's been playing really well in the last 4 or 5 weeks. And like I said, again, I don't repeat myself, but look what happened when he was healthy 2 years ago. Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
I like it. Appreciate that. I'm inclined to think that too.
I'm rooting for you to win the championship too. So we
appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, because I won the last 2 years.
Uphill battle.
I won back-to-back years, and I won the first year. So you're playing against a fellow league guy who's got 3 championships. So I don't need somebody having 4 champions before me. So I don't need that. So I'm rooting for you to beat him.
Yeah.
So
shout out to our boy Brett, who's the other guy Dan's referring to, who has 3 championships. It's been the Dan and Brett show in our league for a number of years. There was one outlier, but you and he have just swept it with championships for a long time.
Yeah, get some fresh blood in there. That's what I always say.
That's right. I'm hoping it'll be me, man. I'm hoping it'll be me.
Me too.
My boys came to play most of the time this year. I've had a pretty consistent team, so
so
we'll see.
Yeah,
so
I'm hoping.
We're about, I would say, halfway through, 45 minutes in. I don't know if we're going to get Dominique Rodgers. We're still efforting him, but it may not work out, so we might have to try that another day. I don't know about you, but this is usually the time I get kind of thirsty. It's the top of the hour.
You don't got to tell me twice, brother.
Doing our beer segment?
You don't got to tell me twice, brother. I'm happy. I'm ready.
I like it. So I think now is a good time for just a short couple-minute break. We're going to do our beer segment as we always do, and then we'll probably get to some hockey, some NBA, and we'll bring it back for some closing thoughts, some NFL, and our picks. So
let's get it, my man.
A few minutes, and the beer segment's coming up. Stay with us.
Smile and a couple beautiful girls tell me goodbye. Trucks break down, dogs run off, politicians lie, being fired by the boss. It takes one hand to count the things I can count on. No, there ain't much man that ain't ever let me down. Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart like diamond rings and football teams have torn this boy apart. Like a neon dream, it just don't know me. The bars in this guitar and long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart.
Oh yeah.
Damn,
So
that song hits
again.
every time. Every time that song
Every single
hits.
time. Beer 30,
Oh, yeah.
beer 30.
Like you said last week, people can see the video of me dancing. That's what's out, man. It's so good.
I do like it. Gets me pumped up.
Oh man, it's
I'm
great.
thirsty. Keep me honest, but pretty sure you went first last time, so I think I got the honors.
I did. You got the honors, my friend.
All right. Before I pull it out, I want you to guess for a moment. What kind of beer do you think I got? What style?
Oh, you have a wheat beer.
Kind of close. Kind of close.
A wheat beer or a Belgian saison. Wheat beer or a saison.
You know that I've been on this bit of a kick lately. I'm going to hold it up. Tell me if you can see that.
Oh, Oktoberfest. Okay. 3 daughters out of St. Petersburg. Yep.
It's a Marzen. It's a Marzen. So
Marzen,
I've been on a
yep.
Marzen kick, as you know, and I
St.
saw this
Petersburg,
one.
too.
I actually picked it up today.
Nice.
As you know, I coming into this, we've been doing different beer reviews now, 13 weeks in a row. I really can't say that I'd had many Marzens before this, but the ones that I've liked, or the ones that I've tried rather, I've liked. So this is, as you said, a local brew. 3 Daughters in St. Petersburg, about an hour and away from here. It's a Marzen, 5.1%, 26 IBUs. It says on the sweet to bitter scale, looks like it's about 25%. They got a little rating on the back of this can. So looks like it's right up my alley. I'm interested in trying this. I do like 3 Daughters. So,
yeah, 3 Daughters is a good place. They got good beers. They do a nice blonde ale. A nice blonde ale they do. Yeah.
Gonna give this one a shot. So we shall see.
Let's see how you're going. You're like greens in regulation. You're like 8 for 13 on good pours. So we'll see.
think
We'll
it's
see what we
that
can do
bad?
here. Yeah, greens in regulation, as our golfers would know.
I don't know. I don't think it's been that bad.
Maybe fairways hit. We could do,
Mhm.
All right,
I
there
mean,
you
come
go.
on. I'm thinking that's a 9 or 9.5 out of 10 right there. I mean, that's
You're
pretty
close to my
solid.
angle.
So
You're close to my bill, but that's all right.
it's got some
Looks
aroma
good.
to it. Yeah, it's got. If you can see that, it's a pretty dark amber
Yeah,
color.
it looks nice.
Let me see.
Ooh, how's that taste?
It's smooth. It hits you at the end.
What kind of like a strong flavor, or was it hit you at the end with? What kind of
Yeah,
notes?
it's. I don't want to say bitter. It's a little malty.
I was gonna say malty. Yeah, yep.
You can pick that up for sure. Let me give one more before we rate.
Mm-hmm.
It's real smooth. It's got a lot of flavor.
Nice.
Now that I've had, I think four or five
Marzen?
Marzens probably since
Yeah.
we've been doing this. This is one of the better ones. I would get this again. I would
Okay.
definitely get it again. It's a great Oktoberfest beer. It hits for the season. It's refreshing. Great by the campfire. I got to give this one a fair, strong rating because I do like it. I'm going 8.3.
Nice.
I'm going 8.3. Not
Nice,
not
okay.
the best one I've had, but strong
That's
enough where I would
respectable.
say, yeah, I would definitely say I recommend it. So again, that's Oktoberfest Marzen from Three Daughters, 5.1%. Give it a shot.
Okay.
It's good.
I will. So I'll play the same game you played. What do you think I'm going with?
I'm wanting you to throw out. I don't think this is what you're doing, but eventually I want you to throw out an Irish Red at me just to compare the one that I had.
Not today, but I will eventually.
Yeah, you like your IPAs. I'm thinking maybe you're going a double IPA. You going a deeper?
Damn! Look at you, man.
Did I nail it?
So this
I
is a hazy double IPA. Look how cool this can is. So it's called
yeah.
It's called Murky Mouse. Look at the front. So it's got Mickey Mouse with claws drinking. It's really cool. Isn't that a cool can?
You are
Look at that.
taking a page out of the Grossy book here by going with can art. I love that.
Look at that. It's called
You know
Murky
what that
Mouse.
looks like?
Huh.
That reminds me of the movie It with the red balloon, the clown thing, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that. Yep. So it's from Mason Ale Works. Again, it's called Murky Mouse. It's a hazy double IPA brewed with Citra hops. It says we got beers, say cheers. It is, like I said, Mason Ale Works out of San Diego, California. It is 8% alcohol. So
Okay.
I'm excited for this because I like my hazy IPAs. So I'm pretty pumped. I'm going to say that it's probably going to have a very looks like it's going to have a summer ale color. So it's going to be hazy. Yep, exactly. Let's see what we got here. See that color?
Yeah.
So let's see. Now that's how you do a pour, my man. So that's greens in regulation. That's fairways hit. 13 of 13, my friend. Wow. So you can really smell the Citra hops. You can really smell the citrus. You can really smell the lemon. And then towards the end, you're gonna. I smell the IPA. The IPA. So let's see what we got here. Ooh, yeah, that's good. So to describe what I'm tasting here at the beginning as my smell, it's gonna hit orange, lemon, and then the hints of the hops, the Citra hops. Those are what really makes it 8%. So it's very, very tasty. I like they're saying, like I said, we got beers, say cheers. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give it another.
Yeah.
Wow, that's delicious. 8.5.
8.5. Okay, strong.
That is delicious. Yeah. You know me, man. I love my hazy IPAs. So I could drink a hazy IPA every single episode if I needed to, and I'll give it an 8.5, 8.4. I mean, they
like it.
hazy IPAs, they pop, man.
You're picking
like that
some
beer.
winners lately. You've had some
I have.
strong ratings.
Well, I mean, I like good beers, man. You know,
Mhm.
I'm up for a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't. All the beers I've had have been really good. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Hey,
that's good stuff. Cheers, my man.
cheers.
Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna roll with this background. What do you think? I think it's better than the other one. It's more clear. You can see more things going on.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go away from the bright lights. It messes up the whole persona. So I'm gonna
Oh,
roll
it
with
looks
this.
good.
It's not horrible. Yeah, it's not
Looks
horrible.
good. It's clear.
Yep.
All right. So there you have it. Weekly beer reviews, taste testing. We can
Yep.
switch gears back to some sports for a moment. I want to take it to the NBA for a second. You know where I'm going with this. We
Oh yeah.
made some predictions, or rather some guarantees, if you will, some statements a week or two ago. I'm on record saying that I am donating
We
$100
both are.
to
We both are.
to charity of listener's choice. You're on board with that as well. So the two of us, and that of course is if the Pistons set the NBA record for most consecutive losses, which I believe we were told was 27, but I think that would set the record. And we got to spend a moment to confirm what it actually is, because I was told that the record is 26 and 27 would set it. So
Let me see.
if
I'm looking
you
up.
can,
Our
yeah,
listener Jeff Creason texted me and said I think 28 was it. So hold on 1 second.
yeah, let's just do some double checking. In either case, while you look that up, see if you can find that. Not much has changed other than they've racked up a couple more L's. They are now standing at a 2-25 record on the season. That's unbelievable to me. Losing, of course, 24 in a row. You mentioned they started the season 2-1, if you can believe that, and they've since rattled off 24 losses in a row. It's I can't say that I've seen that in any league in my lifetime. I've been a fan of really all the professional sports leagues, basketball to a lesser extent, but I like to consider myself a bit of a sports historian, knowledgeable about facts and streaks and all that kind of stuff. And I can't tell you the last time I've seen 20 plus, certainly 24. It's just unheard of. And before I want your thoughts on it, but I also want to ask you just an honest question, because I'm not following the details of it. I don't know how this is not more of a story. I do see that Boomer and Geo acknowledged it. I wish we had a direct line to those guys, because we were talking about it first. I had my eyes
Only
on this
time will tell.
a few weeks ago, but I'm curious, and I want to ask you, how has the coach not been fired? How has the GM not been fired? How are the players not on social media doing press conferences? How is this not more of a story? You've lost, the season is a quarter of the way over, and you've lost an 80 game season. They've lost more than a quarter of the season consecutively. It's unbelievable to me. I don't know how this is not more of a story. You tell me, am I missing something here, or should this not be front page news on every newspaper, on every social media channel, especially in the Detroit area?
All right. So I have two answers to your questions. The first one, the most losses in a row. So it's
Yep.
a little bit tricky because the record for losing streak in the season is 26 by the 2010, 2011 Cavaliers and the 2013, 2014 76ers. However,
Okay.
the 76ers lost 28 straight over the 14-15 season and the 15-16
Yep.
season. So
Okay.
technically in one season it's 26, but consecutively it's 28.
Yeah.
So
I did
we could
hear
probably
that.
take the 28. I mean, I don't know what we want to take. Maybe the season, it
I
really
I
depends.
want
Yeah.
single season. I do. And the reason why I say that is because I go back to, I think this record still stands in the NFL. The Bucks, unfortunately, have the distinguished honor, I believe, of losing the most consecutive games, and theirs was over a 2-season span. I want to say I think it was their inaugural season back in 76, where it was a 14-game schedule. I want to say they went 0-14, and then I think they rebounded and continued that with, I think, 0-12. I want to say they also did 26 in a row in the NFL, but of course, again, that was 2 seasons. So I would take just the single season. I don't
Yeah,
know
let's
that
do
it's
that.
necessarily fair to overlap an off season, but either way, give me your thoughts. Why isn't this all over the headlines? I don't understand.
Okay, so I have the roster pulled up right here to the left of me, and I'm looking at their roster. The oldest dude on their team is 34 years old, and the youngest dude on their team is 20 years old, and the ages are in between 34 and 20, with the most of their players being 25 and under. So that's why it's not all over the place, because they have a very, very young team, and their coach, Monty Williams, he's a glorified coach. He's been around for a very long time. I think they're just going to run with it and see what happens with this young team. I mean, obviously they want to get a win. I mean, they started 2-1, like you mentioned when we started this segment, and they've lost 24 straight. So I think it's not over the place because, like I said, these players are young. They want to build with Monty Williams. He's a first-year head coach. He was just with the Phoenix Suns, and 2 years ago the Suns made the finals, lost to the Bucks, made the finals. So he's a really good coach, and I think they're just going to ride it out and kind of gain these guys experience playing and losing and kind of gaining composure. I know what you're going to say because I can see your lip is starting to want to talk. I know you're not a big fan of basketball. You ruined me on the in-season tournament last week when I was telling you that LeBron was making it happen, and you were like, "Oh, why do they got to make this happen? Why can't it just be good enough?" So I'm waiting for your response, but I just want to finish out with, I just think our young team, a formidable coach, and they're just going to ride it out and let these guys gain composure, let these guys gain experience, losing, winning. If they don't win, maybe just losing, and they're going to be a better team in the long run. I think honestly and truly, probably about 3 years. In 3 years, they're going to be the next Oklahoma City and the next Atlanta Magic, just because they have the same young talent that the Magic and Thunder have. And like I said, I said that since day one, them making the playoffs. I think this will be the Pistons in 3 years.
Okay. I tried to, I didn't want to speak out of turn. I definitely have some thoughts on that, but
Oh yeah,
I guess I have to comment on what you said at the end because I didn't expect you to say that. You really think the Pistons are going to have
Yep.
that drastic of a turnaround, and in a couple of years they're going to be atop the division, the conference?
yeah, they're going to make the playoffs in 3 years, and they're going to be the top. They have the talent that they have on their team is astronomical. What these guys have done, how young they are, how much experience they're gaining, they're just getting thrown to the wolves. I mean, as the old saying goes, and a lot of this has been told. I mean, look at the Magic. The Magic were the same way 3-4 years ago. They had all this young talent, and now look at them. I mean, they've lost 2 in a row, but they're still number 4 in the conference. Same with the Thunder. The Thunder traded away Russell Westbrook. They traded away Paul George, traded away Kevin Durant, and they gained all these draft picks, and they had young talent, and now look at them. So, I mean, a lot can be said for young talent. A lot can be said for losing, and a lot can be said for experience. And I think the Pistons are learning that as we speak. So that's just my 2 cents on it. And we're getting into basketball, but that's just my thoughts on it.
I like the thoughts. I'm learning myself here. Like I said, I'm surprised about a little bit of what you said, but I'm not saying it's wrong. You know better than me, and I kind of want to mark that down, even though it's your projection is a few years into the future. I think it's worth noting because to me that would, even if it is 2 or 3 years, that would be a hell of a turnaround. I just look at how bad they are on paper, their record, for them to, if they would be 500 next year, I think that's a pretty miraculous turnaround. Their winning percentage is 0.074. It's just, It's one of the worst I've seen in any sport in a very, very long time. And if what you're saying is true, that their players are young and it's just a maturation process, like you said, just being thrown to the wolves, maybe they just have to pay their dues and fight through it. Credit to them if they, I just think of, from my perspective, playing sports growing up, and obviously not nearly as a competitive level, but just I played sports before where you just get your teeth kicked in. You know, occasional game you have this blowout. You know, playing hockey, you lose 10-0 or something. It's a confidence ruiner, even when it happens one time. And I just can't imagine what these players are going through mentally every single night. I mean, do they even have a prayer? Part of me, I'm looking now. I want to see if I can find it. What's the spread for the next Pistons game? Is it plus 20? Is it plus 30? I mean, I haven't paid too close attention to the games to see if they're even in the conversation, but I'm just wondering now, what does the spread look like? Because I just can't see how these players are not mentally defeated before even tip off.
All right, so they play. The spread's not out yet, but the next game they play is on Thursday against the Jazz at home, and the Jazz are 10-17, so they're probably going to be 4 or 5 point underdogs, maybe 6, just because they're at home. I mean, the Jazz aren't up; they're only 10-17. So, I mean, they're playing. Like I said, I just go back to what I said. They're learning. I mean, I just looked at their schedule real quick. It's not like they're getting blown out in some games, but they're scoring 100 points, 101 points. You know, they're still scoring points, and they're scoring a lot of points, and they're gaining what's going on. They're learning how to play as a team. And like I said, with all these teenagers, all these young players, I think it's going to be beneficial in the long run. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's
yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be good. I mean, if I'm looking at their schedule, every single game besides 2 games in their losing streak, they've not scored 100 points. And 100 points is pretty monumental. I mean, I know nowadays you haven't been watching basketball the last couple of years, but like this year and last year, offense is up. So 100 points isn't what 100 points used to be. But still, I mean, 100 points is still a benchmark for a young team. So 2 out of 22 games they've scored, 22 out of 24 games they've scored over 100 points. And like I said, I don't want to repeat myself again. I just think they're primed for something big in the next couple of years, because you don't obtain all this talent and not do anything with it, because they got the coaching. They obviously have a franchise history. They obviously have a good arena. They have some fans that are still around, and I think it's going to turn around. That's just me looking optimistic.
Yeah. I like it. Calling the shot. We'll see. Hopefully, we're doing this thing in a couple of years. I plan to. I know you do, and I want to revisit this, and we'll pull it up from the archives and see if you're right. Something that still stands out to me. I think you're on record, if I'm not mistaken, calling the shot about OKC, and I think the Magic were the two that you predicted to be atop both conferences, and the Magic are right in the conversation.
I just called them to make the playoffs. So
yeah,
I mean,
and they're in.
16-9,
they're looking good, and OKC 17-8. So both those guys are right there. I had my eyes again. I don't want to state the obvious. It probably was obvious to a lot of people, but just I did some research. I looked at that the teams that I felt had the most talent, the depth, and my eyes were locked on Boston pretty much when the season began, and they're still right there, number 1, number 2. Tied with the T-Wolves for the best record, but I'm looking at the home record. We talked about some teams that are just really
14-0.
Yeah, 14-0. They can't be beat at home. It's pretty amazing. That's a heck of an accomplishment. Again, we're still just about a quarter of the way through the season, but not having a single loss at home, I think will bode well for them, especially when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, I will give you some credit. I mean, it wasn't, a huge off the table pick, but Boston does have a really good team. I mean, 2 years ago, they went to the finals. They have Jason Tatum. They have Jaylen Brown. They have they got Kristaps Porzingis this year. They have a really good coach, and they have really good ownership and really good franchise fans. So that was a good pick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they
what about Horford? I'm looking at him. He's a Florida guy, and he's same age as me or you. He's a veteran now, but is he making any kind of meaningful impact on the team, you think?
So he comes in, he's like the 6th, 7th man. He'll play probably about 15 to 20 minutes a game. He'll score 10 points, and he gets in there, gets a lot of rebounds. So he's getting older in the game. I mean, I don't know if you know his background, but he won back-to-back championships with the Gators, which we've talked about my hatred for the Gators, but they won back-to-back in college basketball. And he's the only one around still from that team, because that team had Joakim Noah. It had Al Halford. It had a couple other guys who were in the NBA, and this is the only guy that's still around. So
Yeah.
he's still in there. He's a big body, and he can hit threes too, which is a good aspect of his game. So he's a good off the bench guy, a good minute guy, a big body guy. He'll still get you, 5 to 10 rebounds a game, depending on how long he plays.
Yeah. Horford was a guy when the Gators won those championships. Who was their coach?
Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. I didn't realize
He's now
he
the
went
coach
back.
of the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
I pulled a Grossi on that one, messing up my teams.
Man, jeez. You just think I'm just like fumbling and bumbling over here with the teams.
Yeah, you're like Chris Berman, fumbling and bubbling and stumbling.
Yeah. I like it.
Hey,
yeah.
That's what we do.
So anyway, yeah, we're keeping our eyes focused on this record that is it's in the
3
sights
losses
now.
away. Yeah, 3 losses away.
So let's look at the schedule. Is it possible that this record would be broken by the time we do our next show?
Let's see. They play Thursday.
So that could be 25 in a row.
They don't play Friday. They play.
Tell me what happens Christmas Day. Are there games on Christmas?
Yep. They don't play Saturday. They don't play Sunday. They don't play Christmas Day.
Okay.
They play a week from today. So they play 2 games in a week. So
they could tie them.
They'd be doing the game on our show. Yeah.
So they could go 25 tomorrow. They could do 26 when we resume next week. And then that would tie it. And then if we're taking single season only, 27 would set the record whenever that next game is. I'm sure it's just a day or two after. So next time we do our show a week from today, they could tie the record.
Thursday the 26th or Thursday the 28th would be when they could break the record. Yeah.
All right.
And they're playing your Celtics. They're playing your Celtics too. Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't even matter then. Oh boy, that game's a lock. We're gonna have to do NBA locks. I might get down on that game. I might put some action on that game just because.
Yeah,
what could the spread be for that one? 20, 30?
It's gonna be 15. It's gonna be at least 15.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
I might get down. So what do you think? We're getting on time. Yeah, I say we get on the hockey for a moment. Then we got our NFL picks and maybe some closing thoughts. Sad to say, we know that we made, again, some comments on NBA and NHL last week or two. I was out on record saying I would buy you a jersey if the Oilers set the NHL record for consecutive wins. And I think if they got to 10 double digits, you were going to go and get yourself a hat. They fell a little short because unfortunately they lost to the Lightning. I actually was hoping my boys, the Devils, would be the ones to break that streak, but they handled them pretty well. They actually rematch them again this Thursday, so that'll be a tough test. And tonight they're playing your boys.
Yeah, they're playing my boys, which my boys have been on a little run. I'm looking at the standings.
Your boys have been on a run, man. I've been watching, I watch the Devils pretty much every night they play. They had a bad loss Sunday and trying to rebound tonight against the Flyers, which is a tough game, but we're behind the Flyers. We're behind you guys. Not to slight you guys, but we talked about it. The expectations for the Devils were high going into this season. So I really expected us to be probably atop the conference. I'm not saying the number 1 spot, but definitely up there. Certainly in our own division, I really thought we were going to be up there for the Metropolitan, taking nothing away from the Rangers because they're just having an absolutely stupid season. But you guys, I got to give you guys credit. You're finding ways to win, and you've been pretty consistent. So it's been surprising and impressive to me.
Yeah, 6-2-2 in the last 10, and like I said, we're playing the Oilers tonight. Our last 8 were actually 5-0-3. So. We've been talking about the Islanders. I've been talking about them, how it's put up or shut up for them just because of the core that's been around for 4 or 5 years. So it looks like, they're finally starting to put everything together. Bo Holvert, he's on a nice little point streak. And we know about Barzal. So we know about our team. We know about our goalkeeper. And I think we could just keep playing well. We're at 36 points. The Rags, as we like to call them, are at 43. So we're only, a little bit behind them. And, it's going to be interesting. If we just keep playing good hockey, we'll sneak in there as the playoffs and we'll go from there. But I'm excited to see what happens. And I don't know if you caught this, but the schedule makers, they knew what they were doing for Connor McDavid. He plays the Islanders tonight. He plays the Rangers tomorrow and the Devils. So it's 3 straight games in the New York, New Jersey area. So it's looking like schedule makers knew exactly what they were doing with the schedule by putting them 3 straight games in the, one of the largest markets in the whole United States. So they knew how to capitalize on their star player, which I think was pretty cool on their part.
Yeah, I mean they do that a lot. I don't know that it's necessarily unique to this year. It's regional. A lot of it's based on travel plans, whether it's flights or bus or whatnot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A team like that from Canada, they usually do the circle, the route. They play the Northeast, whether it's you guys, us, Flyers, Penguins. They try to keep them regional to make it fair because there are some teams. There's always that old crowd out there that thinks it's unfair to the teams out west, like a Calgary and Edmonton. Now there's Seattle, those teams that have to make that continental trip across the country in time zones. To me, it's just kind of nonsense. Every team has to go through that. It's never fair. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be interesting. McDavid gets to do the tour through the Metropolitan Division. The one thing I wanted to just touch on for a moment, it hurts me. It pains me because I really, really root for the guy. I thought he was, I don't want to say a shoo-in for this, but it really looked like he was possibly going to get the record. And of course, I'm talking about Ovechkin chasing Gretzky's goal record. I don't know exactly where he stands right now. I want to say it's 835 or something like that. It may be even just a little bit less than that. Of course, he's got to get to 892, if I'm not mistaken. I think Ovechkin is, if I'm correct, I think he's 38 years old, probably will be 39 this year. By all accounts, he's been pretty healthy throughout his career. So I really thought he would play as long as needed to get the record. To me, there's no reason why he couldn't play till he's 40 or 41. But this year so far, it's starting to make headlines over the last week or so. People are saying he just looks like a shell of himself. This is the first year that he really is, I guess, showing his age. People are saying visibly, if you watch him, and I know you were just there, I don't know if you honed in on it completely, but people are saying he looks slow. He looks a step back. He looks worn down. And he's a great guy. He's a great player. I would say he's arguably the best player of this generation, taking nothing away from a guy like Crosby. Some of the others, they're probably 1A, 1B. I'm partial to Ovechkin because of the way he's been a goal scorer, just a natural at it. I also like the way he throws his body around. Maybe that has contributed to the way he's finally appearing to be caught up by Father Time. I don't know. I did hear that apparently I think he lost his father recently. So some people are saying maybe the mental thing is catching up with him a bit. And that's why I really feel for him, because by all accounts, he's been a great guy, a great face of the league, a very loyal player, obviously spent his entire career with the Caps. So he's an easy guy to root for. And I was really hoping he would chase down Gretzky, but now I just don't know if he's going to get it. He looks like he's a little slow, and that might be in jeopardy.
Yeah, while you were talking, I did some Google searching, and I got 2 interesting stats and kind of cool things that I just read. So the first one is Ovechkin is on pace to finish the campaign under 20 goals, which will also be the first time in his storied career should the Great 8 fail to tally up the 20-point mark. And another interesting stat that I just read it's 13 straight games without a goal for Ovi. Only 4 goals all season, 2 of which have been empty netters. He's on pace for 15. And like you said, maybe a slump, maybe a Father Time. It's a story either way. Jarring to see him with such unimpressive numbers. So it's very interesting. 13 games without a goal, being the storied career that he's had, being the goal story that he's had. It's and then 2 of those goals have only been 2 of the goals were empty netters. So he really only has 3 legit goals if you really think about it.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, it's borderline depressing to see that, to think about that. Two legitimate goals, 2 came in an empty net. If that doesn't
3 legitimate,
yeah. The guy just looks like he's missing something, especially for a guy who I've never seen 2 better power play players and scorers than Ovechkin and Steven Stamkos. Those two guys have been doing it for about the same amount of time. Honestly, Stamkos came a few years after Ovi, but those two guys, they sit in the same spot, and
They
it
get
was
that slap
almost
shot. They
automatic.
get that slap shot and pop it. Yeah.
One timer, it was automatic, and you'd have to think that at a minimum, Ovi could get a couple goals on the power play just because of how good he's been over his career, but he's not even getting those. And that's what, to me, stands out the most, and why I think it's in jeopardy that he might not actually get the record when coming into this season, last season, he was on trajectory to probably eclipse it. So interesting storyline to watch. He's a guy I'm not sure. I kind of want to look up his contract now and see how long he signed for. I don't know.
I'll find it real quick. Hold on one second. Yeah. Talking off of that, when I watched them a couple weeks ago, I mean, they were down 5-0, and he just looked deflated. I mean, when they were down that much, I mean, he's 38 years old. He did just look very deflated when they were down 5-0. So maybe he wants to play hard, but if they're losing, maybe he doesn't give it at all. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it looked like to me.
He's signed for 2 more years. So he's got this season at $9.5 million. He's also signed through 24-25 and 25-26. So he's got 2 more years after this year that he's under contract. So barring injury or his just losing that desire to continue playing, I guess he's going to continue. He's going to come back and probably play till he's 40. So it's hard not to think that he's not going to get it playing 2 more full seasons on top of, we still have a half season to go this year.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if he, turns a corner and ramps it up. A guy like him, it wouldn't be much for him to just change gears or hit another gear. So where is he at now?
With the goals?
Yeah. I'm curious. How far does he have left to go?
So his career goals are, I just had it. He's got 822 goals, 663 assists, and 1485.
822. So he's 60 goals back. So he would have to get, if he gets, it doesn't even look like he's not getting 20 this year. If he finished this season with 5 more, we'd say that's kind of conservative.
Hold on. 827. That Wikipedia wasn't correct. So 827 goals, 675 assists, and 1502 points. And I think he needs 894, right? 885, something like that.
Yeah. So if he finished the season with 5 goals conservatively, that puts him at 832. He'd be, I think, 60 shy, and I think it's 892 is the record. Maybe not. Maybe it's 894. So he'd be about 60 shy. He'd have to get 30 the following year and 30 the year after that. You're talking 30 goals back-to-back seasons during his age 39 and 40 years. That's asking a lot. That actually is.
Well, he's not going to finish with 5 goals. I mean, the story that I just read, the article that said that he's projected for 15. So give him 10 more goals, 837 finishing the year, give or take 10 more goals for the season. So that puts him at 837. Needs to get to 895. So there's 58 goals he needs in 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, but we know how Ovechkin is. I mean, he can go on a streak of scoring, 3 goals, 4 goals in 2 games. I mean, he's a stud. He still is a stud. He could do it. He can make it happen. I think he just like I said earlier, he just needs to keep staying engaged in the games. If he keeps his interest level up and they're not down, I think he'll play good. But if they start losing, what I saw, 2 weeks ago, is 4-0, 5-0. He had no interest in playing. It looked like. Yeah,
it's sad. I hope whatever's ailing him, I hope he can find a way to rebound because he's been great to the sport of hockey for better part of probably 2 decades now.
And you don't hear any crap out of him either. He hasn't done anything stupid. He's been a utmost character. You don't hear him, doing anything dumb, which is great.
Yeah.
So
what do you think? Time for some picks?
Yeah, let's do some picks, and I think this might be interesting too. We have 3 weeks left. I think we should give our MVP predictions. I don't know if you're ready for that yet. If you want to give it a week or two, but I have some ideas. I have an idea for an MVP. We might have the same. We might have not the same. But I don't know
I'm
if you want to
ready.
pop
Yeah.
off. You want to pop off an MVP first, or you want to do our picks, or how do you want to do it?
We can pop off MVP. Tell me your thoughts, because you probably given it some more thought than I have. I got a couple names, and I got some thoughts on MVP award in general. I'm sure you might, but let me hear what you got.
So I think the runaway winner right now is Brock Purdy for the MVP. I think Christian McCaffrey is a second, close second, but I think Brock Purdy's going to win it. And then number 3, Dak Prescott, even though he had a crap game, and Jalen Hurts. I think those are the top 4, but I think Brock Purdy runs away with it easily. I don't know if what your thoughts are, but that's, if you want to write that down, like we've been doing predictions. I'm taking Brock Purdy for the MVP.
Okay, so you got Brock. I'm gonna go off the board a little bit because I don't think he's getting a lot of attention, votes, notoriety, at least when it comes to the MVP conversation. Maybe he is, but early on this season, I saw a lot about Tua when the Dolphins offense was just rolling. People have, I think, brought up Dak and Hurts. Mahomes might even get some votes. Who knows? But I'm going to go with Lamar. I think Lamar
I was going
makes
to
the
say that. Yeah.
who they are. I think when I look at their team, they're balanced. I think Harbaugh is a good coach. Their defense is pretty solid, but they've dealt with a carousel of guys at the running back position. They don't have the biggest names in receiver. Mark Andrews went down, and they haven't really missed a beat. I think they are probably the second best team in the league next to the 49ers. And I think a lot of that is because of Lamar. I think he's truly a difference maker. I think he's quietly kept them atop the AFC for the better part of really the season. So I'm going with Lamar. I really think he's deserving of it. I wanted to mention that I do think there's a problem with the award in general. I think there's some bias that a lot of people seem to consider it only a quarterback award, and I think that's a flaw in the thought process, the thinking. I think anybody should be able to win the award. It's most valuable to your team. In my opinion, if you take it for face value, what the award truly means, it's who's the guy that's the biggest difference maker, who has the biggest impact to their team. And if you take that person away, what does that team look like? So I don't think it should just be quarterbacks, but we know that I think the last guy to win the award was somebody ripped it. I think it was the Vikings when AP won it. I want to say 2012. Somebody said that, I think it was Boomer and Gio. They said he ripped it from the year Peyton Manning should have won it. So I think AP was the last non-quarterback to win it, if I'm not mistaken. And that was 2012 or something. And if you go back even further, I think the last guy before that was, I want to say LaDainian Tomlinson back in like 04, 05. But it's just, other than that, it's been 20 years or so of nothing but quarterbacks. And I think in any given year, there's a ton of other guys, non-quarterbacks, that are probably equally deserving of some consideration.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats right now. So, Adrian Peterson won it in 2012. But let's not forget that year, Adrian Peterson had almost the record of rushing. I think he missed Eric Dickerson by like 30 or 40 yards or something like that. Yeah. So that was an awesome year. And then besides that, LaDainian Tomlinson, when he had that year, I think you want to say he had almost 30 touchdowns combined rushing and receiving. So, yeah, if you go back, you got Mahomes, Rodgers, Jackson, Mahomes, Brady, Ryan, Cam Newton, Rodgers, Peyton Manning, and then Peterson. So, give or take those teams, they're leading their team to victory. They're the ones who call the plays. So I can see why a lot of people say it's a quarterback winning award. But if you're going to have a year like Peterson, you're going to have a year like Tomlinson, you're going to have a year like McCaffrey maybe this year. There should be good thought for not a quarterback winning. But I do, just to kind of beggar to your differ on that, I think it's a quarterback award because look how important they are to the team. If Mahomes wasn't on the team last year, they don't win the Super Bowl. Rodgers, obviously, they don't go as far as they do. So, it's kind of a catch-22. But if you're going to have a a killer year where you're setting records, then definitely you should be able to win the MVP if you're a wide receiver or a running back.
Yeah.
So so I agree with you there. I mean,
Agreed.
I'm going to go back and see. I don't think there's ever really been a Lawrence Taylor won it in '86.
I was going to say, I think he was the only defensive player, and that's going way back.
Yeah, 1986. And then Fran Tarkleton, it looks like he's the other. I think he was a wide receiver. He won in '75. But everybody else have kind of been running backs or quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
our boy Boomer Esiason won in '88. So we got to give him some props. Yeah, our boy Boomer. So that's pretty cool.
Shout out to Booms. Yeah.
And then there's been a couple years where they've split it. Like in '97, Brett Favre and Barry Sanders won it. In 2003, Manning and McNair won it. So there's been a couple years where they split it, which is kind of interesting.
When did Manning split it, and who? With whom?
2003 with Steve McNair.
Is that because I don't know exactly how it's decided? I'm assuming it's a voting committee. Is there an even number of votes that could make that happen, or is that still a thing? Can it be split this year?
So it's interesting on this page that I'm looking at right here. They have five categories. They have an AP, a PFWA, and a sporting news. So that year that McNair and Manning won it, they were the AP MVP, and then Jamal Lewis was the PFWA MVP, and then the sporting news was Peyton Manning. But I think the AP is the one that really gets the win, I believe. If I'm not mistaken.
Sounds fugazi. It doesn't sound like the legitimate
fugazi.
Word. That's right. It's a woozy. It's a wazi.
Yeah, from the great movie. You know, you got a poster of it at your house.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. That's going to be a good one for us. I didn't forget about Lamar Jackson, but I think that's a toss up between those three: Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy, and Christian McCaffrey. So
yeah, I like it.
Yep.
I like it. So we're down. We'll keep an eye on those in a couple weeks. Well, a month or so, whenever it's announced. You got Brock, I got Lamar. So
yep.
Noted.
I believe I started last week on the picks. So are you ready, or you want me to go?
I'll go.
Let's do a rundown. I think we both went 0-2 or 1-1.
You went 1-1. I wish I could say I did, but I did not. So talked about it. I had Philly last week as my lock. I thought that they were just going to beat the Seahawks on Monday night, and they didn't. Not only did they not win by 4, but they didn't win at all. So I lost the lock, and my upset, I had it written down wrong. I actually wrote New Orleans +6, but I took the Giants +6 against New Orleans, and they didn't cover that. They lost by 18 or whatever it was. So I go 0-2 on the week, and that puts me I was 11-11 at 500. Now I'm 11-13. You had Cincy. I had you written down as -3.5. I think you said 3.
If you had 3.5, then I went 0-2. You wrote it down.
Yeah,
then I went 0-2.
Either way, you got it. So you got the win there. You're upset.
No, they only won by 3. You said 3.5, so I was 0-2 also.
No, well, did you have 3.5?
You wrote it down, so then 3.5.
I got 3.5. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right.
Let me double check on here. Hold on one second. I'm gonna keep us honest.
Honest, Abe. Yeah, I could make mistakes, especially if you ask you. You think I make a lot of mistakes.
Hey! Take it easy. Let me look at another app real quick. Give me 1 second. But if you got 3.5 written down, then I'm gonna keep it honest.
I think so. I'm pretty sure I usually defer to you with the odds, because sometimes the lines that you're looking at are not the same as mine. I think we usually go with yours.
Yep, 3.5 right here. So we always agree with it. So yeah, we're both 0-2.
That's what it was. Okay, all right.
Yep.
So then we both went 0-2. So
yeah, I'm gonna keep.
We're still
honest.
tied. That makes me feel a little better.
Yeah.
We are both 11-13. Still respectable, because as we talked about it, the upsets are hard to come by. So as I look down the schedule, man, a couple weeks left in the season. I don't know if teams are going to start resting players. Probably not yet. There's still too many games that matter. Look at the Bills spread. I got -12. Wow. As much as I think the Chargers are terrible, I can't touch that. Bengals, Pittsburgh, I don't want to touch that. Packers, Panthers is tempting at -5.
I got 11.5 for the Bills, but yeah, I don't think you want to touch that.
Okay, not really. Wow, the Jets are giving 3 to the Commanders. And that's just a terrible game all around. Wow, Lions -3. This is a tough week. Tough
3.5.
spread.
I got the Lions at 3.5.
3.5. See, and that's
What are you
that's
on
a different.
NFL.com? Are you on
No,
NFL.com?
I'm on Bet Online. They're
All
my
right, I'm on ESPN.com.
they're my bookie of choice for as of now. We'll go with yours, but it's always usually just a half-point difference if they're not the same. So we'll go with yours.
Okay.
Man, Giants, Eagles, 12. San Fran, Baltimore, +5.5. Interesting.
Yep, that's what I got.
So this is a doozy. Man, there are not a lot of games I like right now. With the spreads, I'm gonna go. I have Cleveland -2.5. What do you have?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Give me my lock, Cleveland. They look like somehow they're still rolling. I don't know how they're doing it with Flacco, but Houston, is that who you wanted?
I'm thinking about it.
All right.
I actually got a fun one for you. You're gonna love my lock. You're gonna love it.
All right, and then let me get my upset in here real quick. So, man, who do I think can pull off the upset this week? Trying to get something that's a big spread. But all the teams that are favored, I like them, just not enough to really cover. Saints Rams is tempting. I think they'll keep it close.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm really hoping for a good game on Christmas, and it would not shock me if they win, but I expect them to keep it close. Maybe keep it within a field goal. I'm going with my MVP choice. Give me the Ravens +5.5. Keep
That's
it
what I have
close.
too.
Maybe they don't win, but maybe they keep it within a field goal. So give me Ravens +5.5.
Yep, I can see that. Yep. All right. I got mine locking and rolling, my man.
Let me hear it.
They're both 4:00 games. I'm gonna go with my lock first, and you're gonna love this one. It's the old Tampa Bay Buccaneers -1 against the old Jaguars, dude. I got no faith in the Jaguars, and I love that they're imploding, as we say. I like that. I like it.
All right. Okay.
Nothing better than watching the Jaguar fans go 8-3 and be all happy, and then now they're going to be 8-7 after 4 straight losses. Man,
yeah,
I love it. And my upset, we talked about this earlier in the show. I'm going to take the Cowboys +1.5. You have that too?
I have. Where is that game?
They're playing the Dolphins.
Let me see. I have, Cowboys +1.5. I like it.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins, like we've talked about last week, they haven't really beat anybody that's gotten a good record. So they play the Cowboys this week, and I want to say they play the Ravens either the week after I know they play the Ravens once out of the next 3 weeks. So I think they play the Ravens next week. And I just don't think the Dolphins are that good of a team. They haven't really proved themselves against anybody of note. I mean, they're 10-0 against teams that are under 500 and 0-4 against teams that are over 500, So until they can prove it, I mean, I know they're home, but at the Cowboys coming off a abysmal game against the Bills, I think that they're going to come back hard. I think Dak's going to come back hard, and I think they'll win. So, yeah, that's my upset.
Okay. I like it. See if the Cowboys can win on the road finally.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the Cowboys, but it is what it is. So you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll be interesting slate of games. We got 3 games on Christmas. Raiders, Chiefs. Raiders put up some points, so who knows if they can keep that one close. But Chiefs are home. They're usually pretty good at home. I expect they'll take that dub. And Giants, Eagles. I wish they were still alive. It's in Philly. That just
12 points too. Ouch.
That has
12 points.
murder written all over it. You know what? I mean, I don't know if it's been announced already, but I think you can almost guarantee the Eagles are probably going to wear their black jerseys. They seem to just crush us when they wear those. You bet it. You mark it down. I'm sure they wear those black jerseys. They probably beat us 35-6 or something.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a comeback game after 3 straight losses. They're going to be pissed off. Oh yeah, they're going to be rocking and rolling.
I'm going to get all my text messages. Shout out again to Ryan Kellogg, Adam Young, my Philly friends. They're going to be rolling in on Christmas. You just know it. But the game, I think of the night, the week, maybe even the years, the way things have played out is Niners Ravens.
That's going to be a lovely game. That's going to be a lovely game.
Hopefully, they delight us with a good Christmas Eve, Christmas night.
You never know. Our boy Tommy Cutlets could come out coming though. You just never know. Old Tommy Cutlets.
That's right.
Tommy Cutlets.
That was fun while it lasted. So we'll see.
Hey, it's not done yet. Tommy Cutlets can come out and make it happen.
Yeah.
If Tommy Cutlets, if they beat the Eagles, I'm wearing this hat on Tuesday.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If that happens, I'll wear mine. I have a Giants hat too, so I'll join you.
Beautimus Maximus. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we know we didn't get to run down our friend DRC today, which is a shame, but things happen, so we don't hold that against him. We do hope we can bring him on at some point. We'll try to make that happen. It'll be a great interview if we get to do that. We got a ton of questions for him, want to pick his brain. But hopefully we delivered today. A bunch more great content. We'll have another great show next week after Christmas. Hope everybody has a wonderful holiday out there, spending time with friends, family, doing whatever it is that makes you happy and brings you joy. Dan, you got any closing thoughts, remarks?
No, man, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I hope everybody has a good holidays, a good Christmas, eat some good food, hangs out with family, has some good laughs, and, watches this show in between this one until the next show and loves our picks, loves our content, and just keeps spreading the word and keep watching us because we're enjoying it, and I hope everybody else is enjoying it because it's fun. We're not going anywhere soon.
That's right. We're here to keep you company, here to entertain. So we will be back next week, same time as always. You know where to find us. Peace out.
Peace.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Come on. Everybody come, everybody come, everybody.